The Haunting of Blackwood Manor. In the heart of the small, picturesque town of Willowbrook, nestled deep within a dense forest, stood the foreboding Blackwood Manor. This towering Victorian mansion was a stark contrast to the quaint cottages that surrounded it. Its history was shrouded in mystery and whispered tales of horror. Locals knew better than to approach the mansion after sundown, for it was said to be haunted by the vengeful spirits of its former occupants. The legend of Blackwood Manor began in the early 19th century when it was built by the enigmatic industrialist, Silas Blackwood. Silas was known for his ruthless business practices, amassing a vast fortune by exploiting the labor of the townsfolk and cutting down the very forest that had once been their lifeblood. As the mansion rose, so did the animosity of the townspeople, who believed that the forest held an ancient and powerful spirit, angered by Silas's greed. Silas Blackwood was a recluse, rarely seen in town, and even more rarely seen at the massive parties he hosted in the mansion. But the eerie glow of lanterns and the distant sounds of strange music could be heard echoing through the woods as the night wore on. Rumors circulated that these gatherings were not merely extravagant parties, but sinister rituals that tapped into the dark forces of the forest. One stormy night, the townspeople could bear it no longer. A group of brave souls, armed with torches and determination, ventured to Blackwood Manor to confront Silas. The mansion's grand doors swung open eerily as they approached, as though inviting them in. They ascended the grand staircase, their footsteps echoing through the empty halls, and reached the door to Silas's study. When they flung it open, they found only an empty room, a circle of candles, and a cryptic message scrawled in blood on the wall: "The forest will reclaim its own." As the townspeople retreated in fear, the storm outside intensified, and lightning struck the mansion, setting it ablaze. The fire raged uncontrollably, consuming Blackwood Manor and Silas within. The townspeople watched in awe as the mansion crumbled into ruins, and they were certain that the curse of Blackwood Manor was finally broken. But they were wrong. In the years that followed, the forest began to encroach upon the ruins of Blackwood Manor. Trees and vines snaked their way through the crumbling walls, reclaiming the land that had been stolen from them. Strange occurrences plagued the area, from eerie whispers on the wind to shadowy figures that moved among the trees. The townspeople kept their distance, and tales of the haunted ruins spread far and wide. One family, however, was desperate enough to ignore the warnings. The Andersons, newcomers to Willowbrook, had fallen on hard times and had no place to call home. They saw Blackwood Manor as an opportunity, a place to live rent-free, despite the ominous stories that surrounded it. As the Andersons settled into their new home, they felt an oppressive presence that seemed to weigh on their every move. Strange things began to happen. Objects moved on their own, and unsettling whispers filled the air at night. Mrs. Anderson reported seeing a ghostly figure in the hallway, while Mr. Anderson claimed he felt cold hands on his shoulders when he was alone in the study. Their children, Sarah and Samuel, were the most affected. Sarah, only 6 years old, often spoke of an imaginary friend named Emily, who had long, dark hair and sad, empty eyes. Samuel, a curious boy of 10, began to investigate the history of Blackwood Manor, uncovering the grim legend of Silas Blackwood and the curse that was said to haunt the mansion. One fateful night, Samuel ventured into the woods, searching for answers. He followed a faint trail of luminous mushrooms deeper into the forest, where he discovered a hidden glade bathed in an eerie blue light. At its center stood an ancient tree, its roots entwined with the ruins of Blackwood Manor. As Samuel approached the tree, he felt an overwhelming sense of dread, but his curiosity pushed him forward. He reached out and touched the gnarled trunk, and in that instant, he was overcome by a chilling vision. He saw the forest as it once was, vibrant and teeming with life, and he witnessed the cruelty of Silas Blackwood as he desecrated the land. He saw the spirits of the forest rise in anger, their ethereal forms merging with the ancient tree. The vision faded, leaving Samuel breathless and shaken. He returned home and shared his experience with his family. They decided it was time to leave Blackwood Manor, but as they packed their belongings, they heard a mournful wailing from the depths of the forest. It was the anguished cry of the forest spirits, demanding retribution for the sins of Silas Blackwood. Terrified, the Andersons fled the mansion, leaving behind their belongings and the cursed ruins of Blackwood Manor. As they reached the safety of Willowbrook, they turned to look back one last time. In the distance, they saw the forest engulf the mansion once more, vines and roots pulling it into the earth. The haunting of Blackwood Manor had come full circle, and the forest had reclaimed its own. To this day, the ruins of Blackwood Manor are avoided by all who know its story. The forest around it remains untouched, a testament to the power of nature and the consequences of greed. And on stormy nights, when the wind whispers through the trees, the ghostly figure of Silas Blackwood can still be seen, forever trapped in the curse of his own making, while the spirits of the forest stand watch, guarding their ancient domain. The Cursed Carnival. In the heart of the old, decaying industrial town of Ravensbrook, there stood an eerie relic of a bygone era, the abandoned Ravensbrook Carnival. Once a bustling hub of laughter and excitement, it had become a nightmarish wasteland of rusting rides and faded memories. The carnival's demise was shrouded in tragedy and an unsolved mystery that sent shivers down the spines of those who dared to enter. The Ravensbrook Carnival had been a place of joy and wonder for generations, known for its iconic Ferris wheel and enchanting carousel. Families from far and wide would flock to the carnival, its lights and music piercing the night like a beacon of happiness. But all that changed on one fateful Halloween night in 1957. On that ominous evening, as the carnival's rides spun and the cotton candy vendors peddled their sweet treats, an ominous fog rolled in from the nearby river, cloaking the carnival in an unnatural darkness. The air grew cold, and whispers of dread spread among the visitors. At the stroke of midnight, as the clock struck 12, a chilling laughter echoed through the carnival grounds. Those who were present that night would later recount their terrifying experiences, the Ferris wheel spinning wildly without power, the carousel horses coming to life with sinister grins, and the ghostly apparitions of clowns dancing in the shadows. Panic and chaos ensued, and in the confusion, a young boy named Timothy disappeared without a trace. The authorities launched a massive search for Timothy but found no sign of him. The carnival was shut down indefinitely, its tarnished reputation now synonymous with fear and tragedy. The townsfolk believed that the carnival was cursed, and stories of its supernatural events were whispered from one generation to the next. Decades passed, and the Ravensbrook Carnival fell into ruin. Rusted rides loomed like skeletal remains, and the once vibrant tents now billowed in the wind like ghostly shrouds. The town had all but forgotten the carnival and the legend of the missing boy, until a group of curious teenagers decided to explore the forsaken grounds. Among them was Jenny, a fearless young woman who had always been drawn to the macabre and unexplained. She had heard the stories of the Ravensbrook Carnival and was determined to uncover the truth. Armed with flashlights and cameras, the group ventured into the heart of the darkness. As they explored the desolate carnival, they couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Shadows seemed to move on their own, and eerie laughter echoed through the empty tents. Jenny's curiosity led her to the old Ferris wheel, its creaking structure still intact after all these years. With a mixture of fear and fascination, she climbed aboard, followed by her friends. The moment they began to ascend, the world around them shifted. The carnival grounds transformed, and they found themselves surrounded by the vibrant colors and joyful sounds of a long-lost era. Laughter and music filled the air, but it was anything but joyful. The once cheerful carnivalgoers had distorted faces, their eyes hollow and their mouths twisted into grotesque grins. Jenny and her friends screamed in terror as the Ferris wheel carried them higher into this nightmarish vision. They could see Timothy, now a grown man, trapped on the carousel, going round and round in a never-ending nightmare. The ghostly clowns danced manically around them, their laughter growing louder and more deranged with each passing moment. Desperate to escape, Jenny and her friends tried to jump from the Ferris wheel, but it was as if an unseen force held them in place. They were trapped in this cursed carnival, reliving the horrors of that Halloween night in 1957. Meanwhile, in the real world, the townspeople gathered at the abandoned carnival grounds, drawn by the eerie glow that emanated from the Ferris wheel. They watched in horror as the Ferris wheel spun faster and faster, a vortex of malevolent energy swirling around it. As the clock struck midnight, the Ferris wheel abruptly stopped, and the carnival grounds fell into darkness once more. The townspeople rushed forward, but Jenny and her friends were gone, vanished into thin air along with the cursed carnival. The only evidence of their presence was the echoing laughter that lingered in the night. To this day, the Ravensbrook Carnival remains an abandoned and haunted relic, a place where the living and the dead are forever entwined. Those who dare to enter its forsaken grounds risk becoming part of its malevolent history, trapped in a nightmarish carnival that defies explanation and forever torments the souls who dare to trespass.